New York City, a name that resonates across the globe, a symbol of ambition, energy, and relentless change. But the city we know today, a towering metropolis of over 8 million people, a global hub of finance, culture, media, and diversity, had humble beginnings. Its story began centuries ago, not with skyscrapers or subway systems, but with a quiet riverbank settlement built by Dutch traders. In the early 17th century, as the area that would become New York was inhabited by the Lenape, a Native American people who lived off the land, fished the rivers, and moved with the seasons. In 1609, the English explorer Henry Hudson, sailing for the Dutch East India Company, entered the river that would later bear his name. The Dutch saw opportunity, vast natural resources, strategic location, and trade potential. By 1624, the Dutch had established a settlement on the southern tip of Manhattan Island, calling it New Amsterdam. It was a trading post, as a foothold in the New World, intended to support the booming fur trade. Though small, it was ethnically diverse even then. Dutch, Africans, Germans, Scandinavians, and Jews all coexisting in the early colonial stew. Life was harsh, as the settlement was often threatened by conflict with local tribes and rival European powers, and governance was chaotic. But the roots of urban life were being planted. In 1664, everything changed. The British fleet arrived, and the Dutch surrendered without a fight. The city was renamed New York in honor of the Duke of York, brother to King Charles VI. Under British control, the city grew rapidly, becoming an essential node in the Atlantic trade networks. With its prime harbor and deep water access, New York became a vital center of commerce and migration. The seeds of empire had been sown. As the 18th century unfolded, New York became a hotbed of political tension, particularly during the American Revolution, as the city was occupied by the British for much of the war, becoming their military and political base in North America. Fires destroyed large parts of Manhattan during the conflict, and many loyalists fled when the British withdrew in 1783. But out of the ashes of war, New York emerged with new purpose. In 1789, it became the first capital of the United States under the Constitution, as it was here, on Wall Street, that George Washington took the oath of office as the first president of the United States. Though the capital moved shortly thereafter, New York retained its growing influence. By the early 19th century, New York was booming. The completion of the Erie Canal in 1825 was a game changer, as the canal linked the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes and the interior of the country, positioning New York as the central port for American goods and commerce. The city rapidly became the largest in the United States, a beacon of opportunity. Waves of immigrants began to arrive, Irish fleeing famine, Germans escaping revolution, Italians, Eastern European Jews, Chinese, and many more. By the mid-19th century, Ellis Island became the gateway to America, and the Statue of Liberty, gifted by France in 1886, greeted newcomers with the promise of freedom. Over time, entire neighborhoods formed from these immigrant communities. Little Italy, Chinatown, Harlem, the Lower East Side. Cultures blended and clashed, but the city thrived. During the Gilded Age and into the 20th century, New York became a symbol of American progress and excess. Industrialists and bankers like J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, and Andrew Carnegie built empires from offices in Manhattan. Wall Street emerged as the heart of global finance. The skyline began to rise, first with the Flatiron Building, then the Chrysler Building, and eventually the Empire State Building, completed in 1931 during the depths of the Great Depression. Even in economic despair, New York pressed forward. Culturally, the city was exploding. The Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s brought a wave of African-American art, music, and literature. Jazz clubs lit up Harlem. Poets and thinkers redefined American identity. Meanwhile, Broadway blossomed into the world's premier stage. Museums, as libraries and universities cemented New York's place as an intellectual capital. Yet, for all its greatness, New York has always wrestled with hardship. The Great Depression hit the working class hard. In the 1960s and 70s, the city faced social unrest as crime, racial tension, and near bankruptcy. The 1977 blackout symbolized the city's fragility, with looting and violence erupting in the darkness. New York was at a crossroads. But time and time again, it bounced back. Leaders, artists, activists, and everyday New Yorkers rose to the occasion. The city redefined itself again and again, whether through the punk revolution in the East Village, the birth of hip-hop in the Bronx, or the financial boom of the 1980s. Then came the morning of September 11, 2001. Two planes struck the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, as killing nearly 3,000 people in the deadliest terrorist attack in history. Smoke blanketed Lower Manhattan. The world stood still, but in tragedy, New York revealed its unbreakable core. First responders, volunteers, and ordinary citizens came together. Vigils were held, rescues were launched. The city grieved, and then began the long process of healing. The Freedom Tower now rises where the Twin Towers once stood, a powerful symbol of remembrance and resilience. In the 21st century, New York faces new challenges: rising inequality, housing costs, climate threats, and post-pandemic transformation. But its spirit remains fierce. Its heartbeat remains steady. It continues to attract dreamers from around the world, people who arrive with hope in their eyes and nothing in their pockets. From Wall Street to Central Park, as from Brooklyn art galleries to Bronx street corners, as from Queens immigrant melting pot to Staten Island's suburban streets, New York remains a universe unto itself. It is a city of contradictions, glamour and grit, chaos and order, tradition and reinvention. But more than anything, it is a city of stories. Stories of struggle and success, of immigration and innovation, of destruction and rebuilding. From Dutch colony to British outpost, from revolutionary capital to industrial titan, from cultural mecca to modern empire, New York is not just a city, it is an epic, a living epic, still being written. And no matter how many times it falls, New York always rises again. This is the story of New York City, and the next chapter that's being written right now. On the streets, in the studios, in the subways, and in the hearts of every New Yorker who dares to believe that anything is possible.